going to speak in English. And if you have any questions, please ask me in English. My presentation is very simple, and for most of the people in this room, I think it is a topic where you must be very familiar with. I'm an independent consultant. I'm based in Korea, and I also work for the Climate Change Center. I'm a senior advisor at the Climate Change Center. The Climate Change Center in Korea is called Kyuna Center. It's in Seoul. It's an international NGO. It was set up in 2008, and I believe it's the leading NGO in Korea that's uniting different stakeholders to talk about climate change, mitigation and adaptation and sustainability. And we also do policy level work, and we also do international projects. And I'm going to speak specifically on our international work. So I want to start first by expressing the background of our work. We are very focused on climate change and mitigation, so we are also very focused on energy-related work. If you look at the situation, the energy status of what's really happening globally, we have almost 20% of the world that does not have reliable access to electricity. We have almost 45% of the world that does not have access to clean fuel, so they use solid fuels in their house. We have 4.3 million people that die of household pollution. That's a very large number. It's actually more than the number of people that die from outdoor pollution. So people die more from indoor pollution. And we have half the world, at least half the countries of the world, that cannot provide 100% electricity to their citizens. And of course, I think we all know this, that energy generation is almost 2/3 now of the global greenhouse gas emissions. I hope you know all this. This is SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. This is something that really informs our work internationally, and I hope it informs your work as well. These are internationally accepted goals. They were accepted in the Sustainable Development Summit in New York in September 2015. And we are focused on Goal 7. In this particular presentation, I'm going to talk about Goal 7, which is ensuring universal access to clean energy. If you look at what this goal is actually talking about, it's talking about universal access all over the world by 2030. I think it's a very ambitious target, but we must look towards it. And we must, in this universal access to energy throughout the world, we must focus a lot on energy efficiency and renewable energy. And to enable that, we need to facilitate the transfer of green technologies, clean technologies, and expand infrastructure. But if you look at what the reality is, I'm not sure if you can see this graph, but as of 2012, just a little bit more than 100 countries in the world can provide 100% access to their citizens for electricity. That's almost half the world does not have 100% reliability, 100% reliable access to electricity. So it's a very, very ambitious goal we have to achieve by 2030. One thing that we have to bear in mind is that SDGs are accepted at the national level. So national governments have international meetings, and they agree on SDGs at the national level. I can go slowly if you want. So the goals are decided at the international level by national governments. But the real work is done at the local level, not at the national level. National governments have to do all the work at the local level. And even at the local level, it's really the rural people that have the maximum need for reliable access to energy. In most developing countries also, urban areas have okay or good coverage of electricity, but it's really the rural areas. Now, because I represent at this time an NGO, so I'm going to talk about what the role of an NGO is, specifically an international NGO. Through my work, I have seen that international NGOs have some very, very clear, very strong roles where other organizations cannot go. One of them is working really at the local level, looking at locally appropriate technologies, and to help local governments implement policies and programs. Not so much at the national level, but at the local level. Also, civil society really has a clear role in facilitating public participation, making sure all the community members are represented in programs, in policies. And to create, essentially, I would say, I was innovating financial mechanisms. These are non-traditional financial mechanisms to make sure that the coverage, the clean energy distribution is universal for everyone. Now, so to express to you how this can be done, I'm going to present the case of the Climate Change Center, the organization that I am representing now. We have a project in Cambodia, and we are focusing on SDG 7. We are trying to bring, enhance access to clean energy in rural households, really poor households that are natural resource dependent, and we are doing it through biogas generation from organic waste, plus clean cook stoves inside the household. And the key aspects of our work is that we create partnerships with different stakeholders to make sure that we can reduce the risks and overcome the barriers. And we use non-traditional carbon financing mechanisms, and I'll explain later in the presentation what that is. And when we look at SDG 7, we don't just focus on SDG 7, but we include all the other SDGs so that we can get a real sustainable development. Just a brief look at what Cambodia is like. Cambodia is almost 1.8 times the size of South Korea, but its population is almost just 30%. It's only 15 million, out of which almost 80%, three-quarters of the population, more than three-quarters of the population is rural. It's a least developed country. It's just above the threshold of a least developed country, but not yet in the range of a developing country. So it's in the middle. So we classify it as a least developed country. And only 30% of the total population of the country has access to reliable electricity. Its Human Development Index is interesting. It's a least developed country, but its Human Development Index shows that it's in the medium HDI. Now, if you look at the electricity distribution in Cambodia, if you look at the 100% distribution of electricity in Cambodia, out of that, 87% of the electricity is consumed by urban households, and only 13% goes to rural households. And if you look more specifically at what's really happening, you will find that almost 97% of the rural households are using solid fuels. So only 3% of the people in the rural areas really have reliable electricity. And 70% of the population of the country does not have reliable electricity. Only 4% of the people have decentralized solutions, and we are focusing on decentralized solutions. This is really I would say, a very big area for development, very big area for even market development, not just NGO development, but also market potential. Decentralized solutions for this is the national target. We have a national target that by 2030 they will accomplish 70% of electrification, which is actually less than the goal we have agreed for the SDGs. The SDG goal is 100%. And almost 9,000 people die in Cambodia from indoor household pollution. That's about 0.2% of their population. Now, the way we approach our project in Cambodia, at this Climate Change Center, is the first thing we do is we look at not just SDG 7, that is clean access to clean energy, but we interlink it with other goals, environment, economic poverty, health and sanitation. So we multi-link the sustainable development objectives. Our basic solution is a cooking package, which is decentralized biogas plus cooking stoves. But we also build awareness in the community for organic agriculture, sanitation, ecosystem restoration. So we do workshops. Then we do ecosystem restoration activities. We plant saplings. We train the local people in biodiversity construction and maintenance. And we do surveys of health and ecosystems in the villages to make sure that the results are being, the impacts are visible, the outcomes are real. I think this is really the core of our approach. What we want to do is to minimize our risk and to maximize our impact. We create partnerships. So, Climate Change Center in Korea is really the project developer. It brings the money. And it brings the money from Korean funders. It can be KOICA, or it can be a private corporation, it can be a public corporation. And we work in partnership in this particular case with the Dutch Development Organization. The Dutch Development Organization gives money directly to the Cambodian government. And it also facilitates microfinancing for households. And then inside Cambodia, we work with the government, the National Biodiversity Program, the Ministry of Women's Affairs, the Forest Authority, and then we have an office, our local office for project implementation. I think by profession, most of you should be knowing what this is a big stone biodiversity. It's fairly simple construction, it's a very, very old technology, and it's locally applicable, it's locally designed. Can be locally maintained, locally constructed. And this is really our model. This is a fixed goal biodiversity. Our size is about 3 cubic meters to 4 cubic meters because we install it in individual households, not at the community level, but at the household. This is a photo of our biodiversity construction. These people are actually potential donors from the Czech Republic. They come to inspect really what's happening to see if the work is good, and if they are happy, then they will fund the project. So that's another example of how impacts can bring in donors. Next week. These are our basic indicators of what we achieved. We have installed only 52 biodiversities, but our goal is 100 by the end of this year. It's a pilot project. The average consumption of biogas is about 21 cubic meters per month. This is about, I would say, about 300 kilograms of carbon saved per year per household. It's not very large, but the consumption is very low. But more importantly, it will save more than 1,200 kilos of fuel wood, which is what people are really doing. They're cutting the forests. It's a very high rate of deforestation in Cambodia. So, to restore the ecosystem, we also plant saplings. Our goal was 100, but we have now done 3 times our goal. We've trained 2 people to construct and maintain biodiversity. And we've also trained more than 70 people for eco-agriculture. So this is a visual impact of where we were when we started the project. This is a typical household in Cambodia without biogas and clean. And from here we move on to this. This is what it really looks like. You can see the visible impact. There's very little indoor air pollution. Next week. In totality, this is what we are doing. We not only take the waste to produce the biogas, but we also use the solid matter, the slurry and the solids from the biodigester for organic agriculture. This is household horticulture, household farming, and also forage. The same forage goes to the livestock, and the livestock produce the waste. We also put agricultural waste in the biodigester by mulching it first, mixing it with liquids and putting it into the biodigester. And this is the result. We can have clean soils and very rarely, but also biogas-based lighting. This is the one of the more, I would say, the real roles of a community-based organization or an NGO is public participation. Nobody does this. Even the government of Cambodia doesn't prefer to do this. But an NGO can do this, which is ensure that people are participating in your policies, in your programs, in your activities at all stages. And it's just an idea of how intense we do. We've done almost, I don't know how many workshops, but almost 700 people have participated, and most of them are women, almost 75% of them. This is an idea of a tree sapling, plantation, ecosystem restoration. And finally, what are the key lessons from our work? The first key message is really that we must start with the community and keep the community at the center of all our activity. And when you think what it means to have community at the center of all our activities is that to make sure that the poor households, the real needy households are included, especially women. Then it's very, very important to build local capacity. If you just go and install the biodiversity and you leave, if you build no capacity locally to maintain the biodiversity, to solve problems, or to look at agriculture, to look at sanitation, if you not build those capacities, then your project will have no impact. And it's very, very important that when you design the project, to make sure that all these impacts are interlinked, all the SDGs are interlinked. And the only way to ensure that the project will actually will be sustainable, financially sustainable, is to distribute your risks, to reduce your risks, to overcome the financial barriers, which is what we do with lots of partnerships, with funding agencies, with government, with local implementation agencies, with community. Because a biodigester is not cheap. A 3 cubic biodigester costs about $380. That's about 1/3 the annual income of the family in Cambodia. A 4 cubic meter biodigester costs $450. And we don't subsidize it much. We only subsidize it about 30 to 50%, but not from our money, from the Dutch government's money that goes to Cambodia. So the people have to pay. So if they don't participate as a local partner, this will never be sustainable. And it's very, very important to have local ownership. That means the local leader, the community leader maybe, or the local government should take ownership of the project. This is something we are learning now, is that when we get money from funders, the funders have one specific objective. They say, if you do this project, we want to have this objective. But as the project develops, the objectives can get more refined, can be more, they can get richer. So it should be clear to the funder what the project objectives are, so that they are with us from the beginning to the end of the project. And finally, this is a pilot project, it's only 100 households. If you want to scale up activity, if you want to replicate it either in the same community or a different community, this should be part of the original idea. If it's not part of the original idea, it's not going to move, it's not going to take off. That's the end of my presentation. I just give you this particular slide. What we're finding is really, unless you put a human face to sustainable development goals, unless there is a human connection, you're not going to be able to work with them effectively. It's just an interesting aspect of how you can see human development, sustainable development goals from a human perspective. Thank you.